Hey good people, because of our better than America voting system, you have more than two options. In fact, you have so many voting choices that it's difficult to know just a little bit about each one, which is why I've researched all of them and can give you a 2-minute summary on each party, so that the first time you're learning about the Federation Party isn't when you're reading it on the ballot sheet. Australian Democrats. The Australian Democrats are a party of former relevance. If you know their history from prior to their deregistration in 2016, you'll know that they used to be a centrist party that kept the bastards honest by holding key seats that swung the balance of power when Liberal and Labor couldn't agree. It was an important role that diversified power. But since reforming in 2018 with the help of the country-minded party, they are now a party that believes, well, the same buzzwords as everybody else. It's a copy and paste of vacuous platitudes like building communities that are more tolerant, compassionate and respectful, coupled with contradictory statements like removing market barriers to develop a strong energy industry and protect the energy sector from undue influence and distortion. These statements are meaningless. Everybody wants a respectful society. Such a statement is intentionally inoffensive. And you can't remove market barriers and protect the energy sector. In order to protect the energy sector, you'll have to use market barriers. These statements taken separately fill you with a sense of safety and security, but taken together you see them for the insincere bromide that they actually are. The one area that the Australian Democrats aren't paying lip service, like a populist president, is political accountability. Their intentions are clear and measured. Each principle can become an actual policy, and those policies would create beneficial change. I would go as far as saying they are the best party on this subject and that all other parties can learn from their statements. Australian Federation Party. The Federation Party is a new party whose chief commitment is to be accountable to the people that elect them, not those who select them. They are running a campaign on their integrity, and I find it refreshing. Listing these 6 big commitments intentionally gives the voter something to latch onto. They know that you'll know if they ever break their commitments. They'll lose all credibility, trust and support. They've given you a noose to hang them with, and it's intentional. Policy-wise, they advocate for harsher penalties for drug-related crimes and crimes against women, equitable funding of public schools and private schools, freedom of speech and a Bill of Rights, bodily autonomy, military alliances with our current allies, and a government internet filter that stops you from viewing violence and porn. They're opposed to gender theory, late-term abortions, and government centralised digital identities. This party makes for an interesting mix of government intrusion into your life, simultaneously advocating for the government to respect your privacy and bodily autonomy, except in the instance of your personal interests, in which case they know what's best for you. The National Party of Australia. Their constitution was written in 1988, and it shows. Their first stated objective is to promote a society based on Christian ethics and loyalty to the Crown. But the Commonwealth and Christian values have served us pretty well so far, and alternatives are not guaranteed to be superior. Their values closely align with the Liberal Party, but they stand out on one point: the transfer to states and to local government of those powers and responsibilities most properly administered by those authorities. Governing at the lowest level possible before escalating to higher centralised authorities means decisions that affect you are made closer to home. You don't want people in Canberra making decisions for people in Darwin. It's the people in Darwin that have to live with the consequences. While it's a great idea, I've never witnessed power being disseminated back down the chain, and the Nationals have had plenty of opportunity over the past 30 years to influence governance. They have plans for no new taxes, spending money on trades, healthcare, roads, the Great Barrier Reef and all these other things. But it's all the same stuff the red and blue team talk about. They want to spend your money on things they think you want, and then they want credit for having done so. They're old, they're safe, so if you want some normalcy, maybe these guys are for you. Independent Voices for Senate. I can't tell you much about this party because it's not really a party. It's a bunch of dissatisfied MPs from one team or another, and they want to be politicians without a team, which I think is pretty cool. I hate the red team, blue team nature of politics. Having teams makes it easy for us voters to quickly gauge what a person believes, but the downside is tribalism. And the news then treats politics like a team sport. And the Labours have smashed it out of the park with a new record at the 2020 Australian federal election. You'll have to investigate your local independent voice for yourself. But for quick reference, I would think the most notable examples would be David Pocock, Zali Steggall, and Kim Rubenstein, all of which are pretty far left. The Indigenous Aboriginal Party of Australia. For every other party, I have said something positive and something negative to try and give everyone a balanced perspective of their options. But when talking about a party that is based on race, I'm concerned that saying anything that isn't strictly in support will result in me being called a racist. But I think treating this party and these people differently because of their race meets the actual definition of racism. So I'm going to be consistent and provide criticisms as well. Their policy of having no juveniles placed in detention is wrought with incorrect premises that will lead to negative outcomes. If someone commits a crime, they should be held accountable. If the result is juvenile detention, then my knowledge of the laxity of our criminal justice system leads me to believe they truly should be there. I personally struggle to think of a worse policy than people shouldn't be held responsible for their actions. In the words of Thomas Sowell, it's hard to imagine a more stupid or more dangerous way of making decisions than by putting those decisions in the hands of people who pay no price for being wrong. Now, he was talking about politicians, but I think the sentiment applies here. If criminals pay no price for doing wrong, will they change their ways or double down? But one of the policies that stood out for me was local and community-based solutions. This is the principle of subsidiarity, or as it's known in America, federalism. It's one of the greatest political ideas that has ever been imagined. Simply put, subsidiarity means that decisions should be made at the local level, only involving incrementally larger central authorities when absolutely needed. The party also wants to put public money into businesses owned by Aboriginals and change education standards for Aboriginal kids. That's 5 more parties ticked off the AEC's list. If the old and safe parties like the Australian Democrats or the Nationals don't disrupt the duopoly enough for you, then consider trying the Australian Federation Party or one of the independents. Or, if you're sick of the political turmoil, stick with what you know. In either case, there's something new and something old in the next video, where I'll break down 4 more parties in just 2 minutes each. Remember, you were born free.